what has been a cold and rainy weekend in Seattle has evolved into a not as cold, overcast day as the Seattle Seahawks prepare to host the Baltimore Ravens in a stadium where the fans have an awful lot to say about how things go and the volume at which everything takes place. Although there's fully a half season to play, it's the Ravens who hold the inside track to the best record in the AFC, but there's an awful lot of football to be played between now and January. Hi everyone, with that we welcome you to Seattle, Washington. Greg Gumbel along with my Hall of Fame partner Dan Deerdorf. On paper, you look at the figures, you look at the numbers, you figure the Baltimore Ravens come out winners today, but that's not quite how things go in the National Football League.
No, it's not, Greg, and they're playing a very young Seattle team, and young teams can be very unpredictable. And the Ravens, let's face it, John Harbaugh has been preaching all week, we can't start a trend. They lost to the Titans by 13 after that big opening day win against Pittsburgh. Then they turn around after 3 wins. They lose to a 1-5 Jacksonville team at the time. And now, of course, after the big come-from-behind win against the Cardinals and then the huge win on Sunday night, let's see what happens today. Now, John Harbaugh says, we're afraid of Marshawn Lynch. He's a big, powerful back, ran for $135 last week against the Cowboys.
Meanwhile, we talked about the fans here. Is there a National Football League team that gets more vocal support than the Seattle Seahawks? The 12th man is a huge deal here. They're affectionately known as the 12th man, and that gentleman there, George Hickman, one of the 6 known living Tuskegee Airmen, who also is a stadium employee, raising the 12th man flag here today. And it came as quite a surprise to him too, Dan.
He said they called him into the office.
Mr. Hickman, Seattle has won the toss and they will receive to get things started today. Seahawks have lost 3 straight, 4 out of 5. But they play 4 of their next 5 games here at home in Seattle. It's a 40-degree day. We are told that winds could gust to as much as 23 miles an hour.
At least it's not raining.
Leon Washington is deep. And he'll return this one from 4 yards deep in the end zone. And out to about the 25-yard line. Onto the field comes the Seattle offense led by quarterback Tavares Jackson, the 6th-year signal caller out of Alabama State, fighting various injuries this season. 6 touchdown passes, 9 interceptions, and he has also run for a touchdown.
Well, he's got a partially torn right pectoral muscle, and it does at times affect his ability to throw the football with the velocity that he would like.
This is Marshawn Lynch. And Lynch off the right side will be stood up at about the 27 or 28-yard line. A lot of youth up front for Seattle. Rookies on the right side in Moffitt and Carpenter. Last year's first-round draft pick Russell Okung is at left tackle. And the backs and the receivers, and we've talked already about Marshawn Lynch, 135 rushing yards in the loss at Dallas last week. Ray Lewis calls him a complete football player. He picked up 2. And it's 2nd and 8. Lynch to the left side. Just nudged across the 30 to the 31-yard line. The Ravens front includes Haloti Ngata. All he's done so far this year, record 3 sacks, forced 2 fumbles, recovered 3, and returned 1 of those for a touchdown. The linebackers include the great Ray Lewis and the Ravens' all-time sack leader in Terrell Suggs, 6 this year, 74.5 for his career. And playmaker extraordinaire Ed Reed roams the secondary, 13 touchdowns to his credit in his 10-year career. On 3rd and 4, Tavares Jackson in shotgun. In his first pass of the day, sideline, almost picked off on the corner by Ladarius Webb, intended for Mike Williams.
Well, Mike Williams, such a big receiver at 6'5", but this coverage by Webb, just textbook. Looks to be a pretty tight spiral by Jackson, but you just can't do it any better than that. You just cannot cover a receiver better than Webb did with that one.
So Webb will go from defending that pass back into position for the kick. John Ryan kicks it away. Webb will get a chance to return this one. Across the 25, spins forward to about the 30-yard line. So the Baltimore offense comes onto the field. And that means Joe Flacco at quarterback for the Ravens, still basking in the glow of last week come from behind win over the Steelers. He was absolutely outstanding at Pittsburgh.
Well, when you do a 13-play, 92-yard drive, and you win it with a 26-yard touchdown pass with 8 seconds left, yes, that'll get your juices flowing.
Here comes the noise. Maybe a yard. It is a big offensive line the Ravens put on the field. We'll watch the veteran Bryant McKinney on Joe Flacco's blind side. And how about the impact the rookie wide receiver Torrey Smith is making? It was his touchdown catch with 8 seconds remaining that beat the Steelers last week.
Well, like a lot of young players, there's inconsistency, there's some drops, but there's also a big play waiting to happen every time Smith gets near the ball.
End around. This is Smith. 35. First down yardage up the sideline and out of bounds close to the 45-yard line. A look at Seattle's 4-3 defense. Chris Clemens at defensive end, the Seahawks sack leader with 5. The linebackers, Leroy Hill and the rookie KJ Wright outside, flanking the 4th-year middle linebacker David Hawthorne out of TCU. And speaking of youth, that's the Seahawks secondary to a T. First-year guys on the corners, second-year safeties, including Cam Chancellor, who has 3 picks. Now the end around going the other way. This is David Reed. Reed has a first down and then some. Out of bounds, close to the 35-yard line. They'll mark it at the 37 and another Baltimore first down.
Well, isn't Cam Cameron on a roll? Back-to-back end arounds, and you talk about freezing a defense and making them so concerned about over-pursuing. When's the last time you saw an offensive coordinator call back-to-back end arounds, both of them successful, and right now the Seattle defense has been frozen by Cam.
Back-to-back 16-yard pickups on the end arounds, and now Ray Rice straight ahead and just inside the 35-yard line. The Baltimore head coach, John Harbaugh. Pretty good mood when we talked to him this week, wouldn't you say? And why not? He's in the driver's seat for the first time in a long time, Dan.
Well, he mentions every year it seems like that either Indianapolis or New England or some team is, at the halfway point has, undefeated, running away with the AFC, and it is theirs to control.
Flacco to throw his first pass of the day, lofting it down the sideline and overthrew his intended receiver. Anquan Bolden was on that side, and Flacco knew he just missed it.
Yeah, the coverage was pretty decent against Anquan, but he did have a step. Take a look, he's working against Richard Sherman, and there's a safety coming in from the left, and Sherman gets away. Sherman gets away with a little bit of a panic grab there at the last minute against Bolden.
Flacco was outstanding on third down, keeping the offense on the field a week ago. Running out of time, flips it our way. Ray Rice is brought down at about the 33-yard line, well short of a first down. There is Pete Carroll in his second year here in Seattle as the head coach.
Well, he inherited a team that was very old, and he has been in the midst of a youth movement here. And now, at one time they were like the second oldest team in the league. They're now the second youngest. And like young teams, they're unpredictable, but looks to me like they've got a pretty good upside.
Breezy day down on the field as Billy Cundiff lines up a 50-yard field goal attempt. 48 is his longest this season. Not going to get there. John Harbaugh looking to get on the board early. Not going to happen today. Not yet, anyway. Dan was just talking about how young the Seattle team is. That will show you what a turnover Pete Carroll has engineered here in Seattle.
Well, you know, normally youth means a work in progress. Look at the bottom. Green Bay, the best team in football right now, the defending champs. They're the 4th youngest team in the league. Whoa.
Kind of scary, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Tavares Jackson and the Seahawks from their own 40-yard line. Throws near side. That's complete to the tight end, Zach Miller. Zach Miller, who's been doing a lot of blocking and not pass catching this year, and they want to change that, at least for today.
Well, Miller's had so many good years for the Raiders, and this is his first year in Seattle. And yes, it's been a case where he's their best run blocking tight end, and he's their best pass blocking tight end. So he's been called upon to help this offensive line out more than he's been called upon to run routes.
That was only his 12th reception of the season, and this is Marshawn Lynch across midfield and into Baltimore territory for a first down.
And again, there's a good look, I think, at the power that Marshawn Lynch has. And what you want from all good running backs is their ability to finish after contact. And look at the good leg drive, and he's good body angle running behind his pads. It's just the line in front of him has been very inconsistent, as you would expect with 2 rookies on the right side.
Play fake. Jackson. Lynch out of the backfield wide open, has a first down and then some. Inside the 30 and out of bounds at the 28-yard line. Another first down for the Seahawks.
Boy, and Jackson had to get rid of that with pressure right in his face. You can see what a nice move by Corey Redding as he goes right around James Carpenter. Corey Redding's going to come right up the middle. And Jackson, again, every time he hits the ground and he's got to use that right arm to break his fall, is a potential big problem.
Boy, Russell Okung looks like he got away with a hold on that last play. This is Leon Washington to about the 25-yard line.
Greg, somebody gets away with a hold on every play.
I believe that's the offensive lineman's prayer at night, is it not? We have a player down on the field at the 25-yard line.
Oh, that's John Moffitt, I believe, the right guard, the rookie right guard.
3rd-round draft pick out of Wisconsin. They'll check him out, and we'll take time out with 8:57 to play in the first.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com. KFC, introducing the new KFC Cheesy Bacon Bowl. Today tastes so good. And by Geico, where 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
John Moffitt was helped off the field, and he is sitting there on the sideline, and we will show you what happened to him when we get a moment. Meanwhile, number 61, Lemuel Jean-Pierre, is in at right guard to replace him on 2nd and 6. Jackson running out of time, throws coming across the middle is a Marshawn Lynch. Lynch at the 5 and out of bounds just short of the goal line.
Well, Tavares Jackson held on to the football and held on to it, waiting for Lynch to come across and get open. This pattern took a while, and you can see a nice little move he puts on Jameel McClain, who's got man coverage on Lynch, and everybody in the secondary way too deep to provide any assistance to McClain. But that took time to develop. Good job by the guys up front, giving Jackson a pocket.
1st and goal from inches. Lynch. Touchdown, Seattle.
Well, Ray Lewis is holding the football, and he's trying to plead his case, but the officials all signal touchdown. Well, Ray's asking for a challenge, but this is a scoring play, so it's going to be automatically reviewed. Lynch has got a pretty good crease. He's already across the goal line right there. And the Ravens really go after the football and dig it out, but by that point in time, it looked like Lynch had been across the plane for quite some time. He's already in right there.
Until that touchdown, the Ravens defense had allowed just 13 points in the first quarter to the opposition.
Yeah, Marshawn Lynch was into the end zone by a comfortable margin before the Ravens were able to strip that ball loose.
So the Seahawks treading where not many others have tread before, as the extra point is good. 8:07 to play in the first quarter. Pete Carroll's Seahawks with a 7-0 lead. Hey, Thursday on CBS, a Cold War spy returns for revenge. Don't miss the new hit drama, Person of Interest, Thursday, only CBS. 8:07 to play here in the first quarter, and the Seattle Seahawks go 60 yards in 6 plays, and Marshawn Lynch scoring the touchdown, his 5th of the season.
Well, the Ravens have traveled a long ways to get out here to the great Northwest, and they're finding out that these guys are on scholarship too. And the Seahawks know that they might very well be playing the best team in the AFC, and a good chance to measure some of their progress. And of course, they've got no pressure on them being 2-6. So an encouraging start for the guys from Seattle.
David Reed is deep. And Reed will run this one out from 3 yards deep. Straight up the middle, lost the football. On the ground, recovered by Seattle. Ben Obamanu, a wide receiver, was on top of the loose ball.
And what a look of disbelief on John Harbaugh's face. The last thing on earth you want to do is to just hand them good field position, and it wasn't even that hard a hit. He just runs into the back of Vontae Leach, his own player. And he's got such a loose grip on the football that it pops out. You could understand it if a guy on the other team puts a helmet on it and makes some violent collision, but running into the back of your own player, David Reed's got to do a much better job of ball control than that.
Now from the 19-yard line, Marshawn Lynch to about the 17, maybe the 16-yard line. Dan, we referenced it at the beginning of the day, but how it's human nature for the Baltimore Ravens to look at the Seahawks and say they've lost 3 in a row. They've lost 4 out of 5. Every single Raven we talked to, including Coach Harbaugh, said that they've emphasized not to take this lightly. But how do you not?
Well, I thought John said it very well when he even said it in the locker room after the Pittsburgh game, that this win doesn't mean anything if we go out and lose to Seattle next week. It diminishes our accomplishment.
Lynch. A first down inside the 10. It'll be 1st and goal at the 8.
Well, that was a good surge by the offensive line. They're getting off the ball pretty well. And look at that crease off right guard. By the time Corey Redding meets up with Lynch, he's on his heels. Great job of blocking by Okung, by Unger, the center.
Ray Lewis told us Marshawn Lynch is Seattle's heartbeat. But he's stuffed right there at the 6.
Well, this Baltimore defense obviously has played at such a high level for such a long time. And the one thing about the Ravens, when you know you're good, there's no panic. Chuck Pagano calling the defenses for the Ravens. There's no panic in this team, even if Seattle were to stuff it in the end zone here and go up 14-0. This club's got too many veterans. They've been there, done that.
Marshawn Lynch has 68 of Seattle's 78 yards so far. And more here, although not many more, to the 5, maybe just inside the 5 to the 4.5. Brandon McKinney with the stop for Baltimore.
Now, the one thing that this Ravens defense has got to keep in mind, that Tavares Jackson can run. He is a quarterback that's very comfortable out on the edge, and if he has to, he'll take off with the football. That's, in his early years, that's what he did more effectively than throw it.
Justin Forsett in the backfield on 3rd and goal. Jackson running out of time, gets it away in the end zone and complete.
Boy, Ladarius Webb again involved on the play.
Doug Baldwin, the intended receiver.
Now, Tavares Jackson, he has the pocket disintegrate on him right there, and he's able to stay up and delivers a pretty good ball in there. And again, Webb just perfectly times going up, gets a hand on the ball and knocks it away. You know, Baldwin, he knew he was close to getting a touchdown, but nice play again by Webb.
Steven Hauschka, the ex-Raven from 22 yards out, is good. We're just under 5.5 to play in the first quarter. Think of the reaction around the league as they look at the scoreboard and see a 10-0 Seattle lead.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Toyota. And by Sprint. All football, no limits, only from Sprint.
Sometimes there's an instant doghouse in the National Football League, and David Reed, who coughed up that last kickoff return, will watch this one.
Remember, he put one on the ground last week in the Steelers game.
Chris Carr is deep this time for Baltimore. He'll take it from 4 yards deep in the end zone and gets cut down at about the 15-yard line. Joe Flacco will bring the Baltimore offense onto the field. They're still looking for their first points of the day.
You're watching the NFL on CBS.
.5:21 to play in the first quarter, and the fans are on their feet as Baltimore operates from its own 15-yard line. Flacco, far sideline, has his man, and that's a first down across the 25-yard line to Torrey Smith. Hey, get scores and manage CBS Sports Fantasy Football teams on your mobile phone. To get the free app, simply call **CBS or go to cbssports.com/mobile.
You know, Greg, it seems like a long time ago that Baltimore on offense was running those end arounds and had the Seattle defense on their heels.
Things were looking good for the Ravens.
If somebody just left the room for a little bit, they're going, 10-0, what happened?
Rice tried to cut back across the 30 to about the 31-yard line.
What a block by Vontae Leach. Now that, when you're a fullback, that is how you put the hammer on somebody. The Ravens wanted to add a true fullback to the... Watch it coming right at you here. Watch number 44. He's right there on the left side of your screen. Wham! That is how you drop a load on somebody. Earl Thomas. Vontae Leach has been doing that to people for a long time, a Pro Bowler a year ago. Now that is the way a fullback is supposed to play.
The line of scrimmage is the 22. Flacco over the middle, and that's complete to Anquan Bolden, and Bolden across the 25 to about the 27-yard line. Joe Flacco, you know, we went back, Dan, we've talked about the up and down play at times for the Ravens this year, and certainly the one that they played and lost to Jacksonville was a stinker, but Joe Flacco says the thing that the team did was learn from that and moved on.
Yeah, and the one thing they'd really love to do is run the football better. That's something that no one is happy about. They've had to abandon the running game in a couple of their games because they were behind.
On 2nd and 10, Flacco over the middle and incomplete. That one intended for Ed Dixon as tight end, number 84. The one thing to keep in mind here, and it's hard to lose track of it, is how noisy this stadium is and how unfriendly it is to opposing teams when they're trying to run their offense.
And especially on 3rd and long, which is what we have now.
Flacco with time down the sideline, has a man and overthrew him.
Well, Joe has to be saying to himself, did I really just overthrow Torrey Smith, who's got such tremendous speed? Great blocking up front gives Flacco the time to step up, and the out and up. He beats Richard Sherman cleanly, and Joe just simply overthrows him. A great pattern that time by Torrey Smith, and Joe just puts a little too much air under the football.
Leon Washington back at his own 20-yard line. Oof, look at this kick from Sam Cook. From the 16, Washington straight up the middle. Pete Carroll's guys feeling it. 3:33 to play in the first. Hey, tomorrow on CBS, 5-0's turning up the heat. Hot case, hot cars on a hot new Hawaii 5-0. Tomorrow, only CBS.
Well, this is nothing new for the Baltimore Ravens. That their offense gets off to a slow start, and the pressure falls on their D to try to keep them in it. And you know, this is a defense with 4 scores already this year, and Ray and the gang have been here before.
From the 28-yard line, Marshawn Lynch has 70 total yards so far today. Baltimore's offense has 55. Jackson to throw. Little pump fake. Looks the other way and now over the middle. And there's a penalty marker down in the backfield.
Holding. Offense. Number 75. 10-yard penalty. First down.
Scott Green throws the flag on the rookie right tackle James Carpenter.
Well, this Seattle team has the second most penalties in the National Football League. They had 70 coming into the game today. And again, youth is a lot of times synonymous with penalties. And take a look at that, the 20th accepted penalty on the offensive line, and they've had a fair number that have been declined because it put them into a punting situation.
So now it's a 1st and 20. Jackson to the far side. That one's complete to Zach Miller, and Miller fights his way to about the 25. We referred to it earlier, Dan. Zach Miller's an interesting story. A very accomplished tight end in his years at Oakland, but called on to block until this week, where the Seahawks said, yeah, we definitely have to get him more involved in the offense.
Yeah, Pete Carroll told us that we've got to get him downfield a little bit more, but they're not apologizing for the role that he has played.
This is Leon Washington on 2nd and 13, and not very much up the middle. Ray Lewis and Jameel McClain wrap him up.
Is Elodie Nada all right? He is. Something hurt there. He's taking himself out of the game. There he is right in the middle there. Number 92 takes on the double team. Not sure what happened, but the best defensive tackle in football on the Baltimore sideline.
3rd and 9. Jackson, far sideline. That catch is made, and that'll be good for a first down to Ben Obamanu.
Boy, that is pretty good coverage out there as well by Williams. And well, I'll tell you, this is a great strike from Tavares Jackson. You know, that's one of those deals that you really, the coverage is pretty decent, but it was a good route, a good throw. Obamanu almost lost control of the football, but held on to it enough to get the reception.
New set of downs from the 39. And this is Lynch. And one of the things that we wanted to keep an eye on today, Dan, is how well Tavares Jackson can throw the football. And a little chippiness in the middle of the line.
Don't keep pressing the issue. There's no flags thrown yet. Well, there it goes. There it goes. Man, you get through that much pushing and shoving without a flag. Everybody ought to take a deep breath and step back.
After the play, dead ball personal foul, number 17 on the offense, 15-yard penalty, 2nd down.
Mike Williams, and that's just a silly penalty.
Well, there's Mike Williams right now, and he and Williams are okay. That's not it though. Yeah, that is. I guess that was enough. Larry Rose, the side judge, said, "Well, I guess that's enough for a penalty." I'm sure Mike Williams is thinking to himself, "I've seen a lot worse than that without a flag." But again, it just went on too long.
And you see how badly the Seahawks have hurt themselves with the penalties. So now it's 2nd and 22. Lynch to about the 32-yard line. So it will be 3rd and a mile instead of 2nd and a mile.
You know, Greg, you go back to that penalty. The reason was how long. It went on for a good 10 seconds, and the officials, I think smartly, are saying, okay, everybody get away. And blowing whistles, and then Williams wants to get the last little shot in. Well,
enough is enough.
If that had happened at the 2-second mark, it would have been fine. At the 12-second mark, it's a penalty.
And that will be the last play of this first quarter. And the Seattle Seahawks have been outstanding here in the opening period. That's the end of one. The Seahawks lead at 10-0. We're coming back to CenturyLink Field in Seattle right after these messages. The fans are happy, and the Seahawks are looking good so far. You're watching the NFL on CBS. Don't ever say the fans don't know how to dress for a football game here in Seattle. 3rd and 16. And there's movement on the right side of the offensive line. That is the rookie James Carpenter.
False start. Offense number 75. 5-yard penalty. 3rd down.
So it'll be 3rd and 23. Meanwhile, these Baltimore Ravens are used to getting off to a good start. Coming into the game today, they had outscored their opponents by 49 points in the first quarter. Today, they're down 10. That'll help your record a lot when you get off to a good start.
Yes, it does.
This is Forsett. Wrapped up at about the 30-yard line by one Mr. Ray Lewis.
And again, there's Ray trying to get things going, get his team fired up. You know, there's a lot of different ways to lead. And I think Ray Lewis excels in every one of them. Very seldom do you see someone who's quite as charismatic and just oozes the leadership that Ray Lewis does.
Not a great kick, Ladarius Webb from the 25. And steps out of bounds at about the 35-yard line.
Well, a lot of uneven play in the first quarter for the Baltimore Ravens. It started off with a missed field goal. I don't think the wind was a really big factor there. I just don't think Cundiff hit it very well. Then, of course, David Reed comes right back and puts it on the ground. That ended up being a field goal, and then Torrey Smith has got a couple of steps on Sherman, and Joe just simply overthrows him. So it's been close, but no cigar so far for the Ravens.
Flacco stands up, the slant, incomplete. Intended for Anquan Bolden. It'll be 2nd and 10.
Wow. And again, Richard Sherman, the corner, all of 6'3". Pete Carroll's got himself a giant secondary here.
That's his dream, too, isn't it?
Yes, he loves tall corners. And, you know, Anquan Bolden's such a physical receiver. And, you know, when you're going against a 6'3", 200-pound corner, tough to shove him out of the way. If you're fighting for a little piece of real estate, it's a pretty good contest.
On the other corner is 6'4", 221-pound Brandon Browner. 2nd and 10. Flacco. That one is complete, but for not much yardage to Ed Dixon. Pretty good coverage by this young Seattle secondary.
Well, it wasn't good for much yardage, but it sure was a demonstration of the talent that Joe Flacco has at the tight end position. You know, Todd Heap, for so many years, played such good football for Baltimore, but between Ed Dixon and Dennis Pitta, a couple of very talented athletes with soft hands.
penalty markers fly. Flacco over the middle, and that is complete to Ed Dixon. And now let's check the flags. I think this is defensive offside.
Number 94, offsides. Penalty is declined. First down.
Anthony Hargrove guilty of the offside penalty.
And this was so desperately needed by the Ravens to give their defense a little break. But again, look at Dixon go up and get the football, and look at the hands. I mean, look at him, look it in. Boy, that was a thing of beauty.
So now Baltimore at the Seattle 49. Flacco, short pop over the middle to Dixon once again.
All of a sudden, Ed Dixon has
Sticky finger.
decided to get in the party here as Joe Flacco goes to him 3 different times here. Again, Ed Dixon, a nice big target at 6'4", and that ball was a little bit behind him. You'll see guys sometimes have trouble with that, but he's got really just a beautiful set of hands.
Baltimore has run the ball 4 times and thrown it 10 times. Make it 11 now. This is Rice. And Rice may be about a yard short of a first down, just inside the 40. Brought down by David Hawthorne.
Looks like he's a full yard from the first down. Good protection to this point for Flacco. You got this big physical line. Here's where you'd like to be able to mash it.
Flacco. And a throw for it. Far side of the field, incomplete. Penalty markers.
Oh, yeah. Browner hanging all over Anquan Bolden.
Interference, defense, number 39. Ball will be placed at the spot of the foul. First down.
Well, Brandon Browner is the most penalized corner in football. First of all, he got away with the hands to the face, but then as Bolden tries to go back to the outside, he's got a hold of his jersey. He's a very physical guy, but you could see the contact with the right hand, the body, and he did a full grab on Bolden as he headed to the outside.
Flacco with all kinds of time, and now Ricky Williams out of the backfield with the catch. And crushed at about the 28-yard line by Alan Branch.
Well, and Alan Branch gives Ricky Williams a little nudge when he gets up. That almost drew a flag.
Let's see if we can hear this.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. I heard that. I'm sure Ricky's still hearing it. 2nd and 4. Williams to the 30, to the 26 rather.
And again, Baltimore just struggling to get this running game moving. I know it's a source of frustration to everybody involved, and as the weather starts to get colder, the elements come into play more often.
You better be able to run the football.
You'd love to get it untracked.
Looking at 3rd and 2, and the play clock is down to 7, 6, 5, and moving. Baltimore uses its first timeout here in the first half. Seahawk defense looking for help from the 12th man on this 3rd and 2. Flacco completes it to Ed Dixon for a first down at the 20.
Well, that's a good job by Cam Cameron of showing a running formation. He's got Vontae Leach out on the field, his blocking fullback, but then Leach goes into motion, becomes a wide receiver, and because of the running personnel on the field for Seattle, they're able to take advantage of the matchup. And Ed Dixon all of a sudden is taken over here a little bit offensively for Baltimore.
From the 20, Flacco. With time, now throws incomplete, threw it behind Vontae Leach. It'll be 2nd and 10. Ray Rice has been able to do nothing on the ground. He's had 2 carries for 4 yards. Baltimore has just 37 rushing yards, and here we are, 9:50 to play in the first half.
And the reason they have 37 rushing yards is they have 2 end arounds, each one of them good for 16 yards. There's 32 of their yards were by Reed and Smith.
Flacco with time, end zone, it is knocked down and complete. Earl Thomas and Brandon Browner converged. Flacco may have just delivered this one a bit late.
Well, by the time the football gets there, the Seattle secondary, which makes a mistake and allows Torrey Smith to be wide open, all of a sudden that's a ball that should have been intercepted, except the defenders run into each other. Browner and Earl Thomas collide, or that would have been a relatively easy interception.
Flacco steps up, throws, that's complete inside the 5, and crawling to the 1 is Ed Dixon. Boy, what a pair of hands on Dixon.
Well, he is putting on a clinic of not catching the ball with your body. Now, this is out of necessity because he's got to elevate for it.
And here's the hurry up. And in order to combat that, Seattle calls a timeout. 9 minutes, 19 seconds to play in the first half. And the Ravens knocking on the door.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Scottrade. See for yourself why so many investors are saying, I'm with Scottrade. The HTC Resound, the only phone with built-in Beats audio. And by Triple Hops Brewed Miller Lite. Taste greatness.
On this 11-play drive, Ed Dixon has caught 5 passes for 48 yards, and Baltimore now with a 1st and goal at the 1. Rice in motion. Flacco throws, incomplete. Dennis Pitta at the back of the end zone.
Well, Joe Flacco really trying to sell a run formation here, a little ball fake, but that ball again just floats and gets away from Flacco. Pitta doesn't have a chance to make a play on that. There was a defender underneath, so Joe had to throw it high, but again, too high.
On 2nd and goal, Rice throws the touchdown pass to Dixon.
How fitting. How fitting that Ed Dixon gets the touchdown on this drive. What a second quarter he's having. Again, if you're a Seattle defender, how do you not go after Ray Rice? A well-designed play and nice little soft touch, left-handed. That is the way they drew it up.
Ray Rice has now run for 6 touchdowns, caught 2 TD passes, and thrown a touchdown pass. And the extra point is good. 9:11 to play here in the first half. Baltimore finally on the board with a Ray Rice touchdown pass. It's 10-7 Seahawks. Boy, tight end Ed Dixon figured mightily in that 66-yard drive. 6 catches, including the touchdown catch, his 2nd of the season. and it's 10-7, and there's the old quarterback, Ray Rice.
But again, though, boy, they're throwing the ball so much. They've got 5 runs and 18 passes so far in this game. That is quite an imbalance, especially for a team that came into the game with 100 more throwing attempts than they had rushing attempts. And John Harbaugh, I said, John, are you happy with that? And he goes, no, not in the least.
However, you do go with what's working for you.
And he admitted, you know, a couple of those games like the Arizona game were way behind so early that we had to abandon the running game.
A little breezy down on the field, so now the ball is being held for Billy Cundiff. And Leon Washington is deep. Leon Washington with his 7 career kickoff return touchdowns in his pocket. He'll run this one out from 3 yards deep. Out to about the 25-yard line. This November, join the NFL's Salute to Service campaign to honor our nation's veterans and active servicemen and women. You can learn more at nfl.com/salute. .9:06 to play in the first half. Ravens have cut the Seattle lead to 3, and the Seahawks now from their own 24. Lynch. We saw Lynch being stretched out on the sideline during that last Baltimore drive.
And Lemuel Jean-Pierre is still in there at right guard. John Moffitt with a knee injury. The Seahawks told us that his return is doubtful, but he got his right leg bent at an unbelievably awkward angle. And Marshawn gets a breather.
Jackson, the only one in Seattle backfield on 2nd and 7. And he's going to run out of time. Delay of game, Seattle.
Boy, what a
Delay of game.
what a mistake by Tavares
5-yard
Jackson.
penalty. 2nd down.
Gee whiz, he had his team at the line of scrimmage. Plenty of time to run that play comfortably. He just totally lost track of the play clock. There's Tom Cable on the left. Remember him, the head coach of the Oakland Raiders last year. And he is now in charge of this Seattle offense and also in charge of the offensive line.
This is Lynch. To about the 25.
Well, Marshawn Lynch, he's been a big part of this offense. He's got a couple of receptions. That one out in the middle of space, and again, that was a really good route. And he scored a touchdown as he was able to power it in. And again, Marshawn Lynch gives this Seattle offense a lot of legitimacy. And who can forget that run that he had in the playoffs last year against the Saints? One of the best runs I ever saw.
3rd and 9. Jackson on the move, looking, throwing deep, has his man open, he's got it! Doug Baldwin pulls it in and is out of bounds at about the 25-yard line.
Well, so much for Tavares Jackson and that pectoral injury and whether or not he can put anything on the ball. He throws that football airborne. He's running to his left and he leaves the ground, and how do you do it any better than that?
Watch this hit by Bernard Pollard. Pete Carroll ran all the way down the sideline asking for a flag. He didn't get it.
No, he didn't get it. The initial contact was right on the sideline.
That's a 50-yard pickup. Jackson rolls the other way, looking, and now he's going to run with it. And out of bounds at the 20.
I think Tavares Jackson surprised a lot of people. You know, last week in that loss against Dallas, he threw 3 interceptions in the second half, and one of them, especially when he had to throw from an awkward position, really had the old wounded duck thing going for it. But that was for a right-handed quarterback rolling to his left. Man, did he throw a perfect strike to Doug Baldwin.
On 2nd and 6, this is Leon Washington, and Washington back to the line of scrimmage.
Well, anytime you're going to run the football against the Ravens, you're going to pay for every yard. You know, again, this unit once again in the top 5 in the league, statistically ranked number 2. But you better be willing to pay the price all week in practice and on a Sunday to scratch out yardage against these guys.
Here's a big 3rd and 5. Jackson throws it up, has his man and overthrew it. Zach Miller turned a couple of different ways and couldn't connect.
Well, Zach Miller was expecting the ball to be thrown to the corner, and that's the way he broke his route, and under pressure, Jackson threw it back to the inside. And that is, you know, not able to step into the ball. Ed Reed is right there in his face. And credit the Baltimore charge up front for forcing that poor throw.
So now Hauschka will try this one from 38 yards out. And Seattle gets 3 of them back. 5:39 to play. In the first half, it's 13-7 Seahawks.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by McDonald's. I'm loving it. And by K Jewelers, the #1 jewelry store in America. Every kiss begins with K.
Five minutes, 39 seconds remaining in the first half, and Seattle's first half points are a little bit of a relief to head coach Pete Carroll today. Mainly because he hasn't been getting any.
No, that's exactly right. And there is David Reed out of the doghouse. And I would imagine that he's going to have a death grip on this football.
He'll have a chance to return it. Out to the 20-yard line. Hey, Tuesday, a cop who remembers everything will turn to her family to solve a mystery you'll never forget. Mary Lou Henner guests on TV's #1 news show, Unforgettable Tuesday, on the CBS.
16, receiving team.
This is unbelievable. But David Reed, when he got up, plopped the football down on a Seattle defender and gets flagged for unsportsmanlike conduct.
Welcome back to the doghouse, David.
How can things go that wrong is what David Reed has got to be thinking to himself right now. Half the distance back to the goal line because of the taunting penalty.
So now the Ravens from their own 10. This is Rice for about 4 to the 14.
Let's go back to the kickoff we just saw. Now David Reed, he's going to put his head down and, okay, the play's over. Now he's going to get up. He's got the football, and he shoves away, and then he goes ahead and drops the football right onto the player.
You know, that doesn't strike me as being egregious.
No, I've seen a lot worse.
2nd and 6, Flacco throws outside, and that one is incomplete. Intended for Torrey Smith. We get an update from New York.
Greg, when you hear the name Devin Hester, what do you think it involves?
Well,
Dan?
we're going to think it's going to be exciting, whatever it is. He flubs the punt return, then he goes down the sideline 82 yards for a touchdown, beating the kicker right here. It's his 12th punt return for a touchdown in his NFL career. If there's ever a kicker returner going to the Hall of Fame, it should be Devin Hester.
20-0 Chicago. Back to Greg and Dan.
All right, guys, thank you. On 3rd and 6, Flacco. Over the middle, and that is broken up. Intended for Dixon. Cam Chancellor got a hand on it.
Chancellor, another one of those big physical bodies in this Seattle secondary. He's 6'3", 225 pounds. And Joe Flacco, no surprise going to Dixon, but that was just a good job by Chancellor. He didn't go through the body, Joe.
No, Joe. He had no hands on it.
No, he came around and just knocked the ball away.
Leon Washington back for the kick. clock down to 2, down to 1. Short kick. And the Seahawks are going to get terrific field position out of this one.
Well, now it's up to Baltimore's defense to try to make a little mini stand here. That distance that Reed's penalty backed it up a little bit is probably the reason Seattle's going to get the ball on this side of the field. It's been a pretty quiet first half so far for Terrell Suggs, who's having an absolutely all-pro season for the Ravens. He's got 1 tackle today, but coming into the game, a couple of interceptions, 6 sacks. He has been disruptive in every game the Ravens have played this year.
Let's see how badly that 28-yard punt hurts the Ravens here in the last 4:44. Jackson. Lynch out of the backfield. Out of bounds. Man, you like Marshawn Lynch's shoes?
Well, I don't have any lime green shoes.
Well, I was going to say.
Look out. Lynch just got tangled up in a cord.
I was going to say, just prepare yourself for Christmas morning, okay?
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Here's Lynch. All he's trying to do is get back out on the field.
It's the shoes.
That's about the hardest hit he's taken today. It's the shoes. Well, you have no problem identifying Marshawn Lynch in a replay.
Or anybody else in those shoes.
We're able to see the feet. We know who it is.
2nd and 6. Play fake. Jackson. On the move, running out of time through the way. Haloti Ngata giving chase. That's somebody you just don't want chasing you.
No, and Ngata is, he's really popular out here. He was an All-American at Oregon and from Salt Lake City, and so he's back in familiar territory out here. What a superior athlete to be as big as he is and to be as light on his feet. And look at him close. Look at him close the distance on his way to Tavares Jackson. It's uncanny to see a man that size move as well as he does. And guys like that just don't come down the road very often.
3rd and 6. If they do, you can see him coming.
A long ways away.
Jackson throws, and that one is complete inside the 35 and right at the first down marker to Sidney Rice.
Where are they going to spot this?
That's a first down. Or at least, nope, they're going to take a measurement.
Again, coming across the formation, Sidney Rice, he lays out nicely for the ball against the Baltimore zone.
And pectoral ailment or none, Tavares Jackson throwing the ball very well today.
Throwing the ball extremely well. And considering that when we met with Tavares Jackson, shaking his hand, he was very protective of his right arm, almost stepping back when he reached out. He is in a tremendous amount of pain, and Pete Carroll says, I've got so much admiration for him. It's just a case, how much pain can he tolerate?
Inches short of first down at the 32. And the offense is still on the field on 4th and 1.
Oh, well, yeah.
Less than 1.
What do the Seahawks have to lose?
So Marshawn Lynch is on the field in the backfield. Seattle perfect on 4th and 1s this year. And Lynch is in the slot as a wide receiver. And Jackson is going to keep it.
Well, if he got it.
From here, looks like he did.
It was by the slimmest of margins, but Scott Green gives the first down signal. Tavares Jackson just heads off behind right guard. Lemuel Jean-Pierre, a good surge by Carpenter, the big right tackle. That James Carpenter, he will come off the football. Their first-round pick from Alabama.
6'5", 321.
He will get after it. He's got a little bit of a mean streak. I kind of like that.
Coming up on 3 minutes to play. Jackson, under pressure, throws it, got it. Far side of the field and out of bounds is Sidney Rice. Great job for Tavares Jackson with people in his face, especially Pernell McPhee.
Well, this is the 29th ranked offense in the National Football League by yardage. You would not know it looking at the way that they have been operating in this first half against the Ravens. And you could see just as he releases the ball and in the process of throwing, Jackson takes a pretty good hit right on that right arm. Right on that right arm, Pernell McPhee hits him in progress.
On 2nd and 1, this is Lynch looking for running room and not finding any.
Yeah, that's good team defense by the Ravens. That's defending the point of attack, and then when the running back tries to bounce someplace else, he's swarmed and gang tackled.
So now Seattle goes from a 2nd and 1 to a 3rd and 3, and it looks like we're going to get the 2-minute warning before they run another play.
Tom Cable's going, that is not the way we drew that up.
They will have the 2-minute break to think about what they're going to do on 3rd and 3. 2 minutes to play here in Seattle. 13-7 Seahawks. Welcome back to Seattle. 2 minutes to play. Each team with 2 timeouts. A 3rd and 3 for the Seahawks at the Baltimore 24.
Hey, squeeze! No, bam!
Jackson outside. That's complete. Marshawn Lynch has a first down.
Where are they going to spot it? They're going to give it to him. He came dangerously close to stepping out before he got to the first down line.
But you know, he knew exactly where he went out.
Well, you can whoa, and the official really takes a shot. Ed Reed flying across.
And we get a whistle on the field. So we'll take a break with 1:55 on the clock.
They're going to take a look at this upstairs.
Well, this is what Scott Green is looking at from upstairs.
Well, we're inside 2 minutes, so that decision is made upstairs. And take a look where that left foot steps out of bounds right there, and where the football is. And this is definitely a good look by the guys upstairs, because Marshawn Lynch was nowhere near where the spot was that they gave him on the field of play.
You know, where Marshawn Lynch put that football down reminded me of the days when Walter Payton used to get tackled, and as he was getting up, he moved the football forward about another yard or so.
They always said it's a game of inches. But where Marshawn Lynch went out of bounds, where that football was, actually looking at it on the replay, appears to be about a yard short of where he got the spot on the field.
Here comes Scott Green.
After reviewing the play, the runner's left foot stepped out of bounds with the ball short of the first down marker. The ball will be spotted at the 21.5-yard line. 4th down with a half a yard to go.
And that's a good use of replay. And we're getting a pretty good look. Ed Reed comes over and forces Marshawn Lynch out of bounds. And it's pretty self-explanatory. There's the foot, there's the ball. They're going to spot it right at the 21. And the Seahawks going to go for a field goal.
So instead of continuing the drive, Hauschka is going to line this one up from 39 yards. On its way. And good. So Hauschka from 22, 38, and now 39 yards, and Seattle's lead is 16-7. And a reminder coming up, the Spread Halftime Report. JB, Dan, Shannon, Boomer, and Coach Bill Cowher will have all the latest NFL scores and highlights coming up on the Spread Halftime Report.
Well, keep in mind this Seattle team They've only won 2 games, and if they have a signature win, it's the fact that they went to the New Meadowlands and beat the Giants 36-25. They played really well in that game, but this is, against this Ravens defense, this is a flawless first half here by Seattle.
And as you take a look at the numbers, again, worth keeping in mind, Dan, they play, including this one, 4 of their next 5 games here at home.
Well, you know, in their division, they're so far behind the 49ers that
everybody is.
Yes, it's you know, you don't think playoffs with this team, but again, this is a young team looking to the future. Pete Carroll is building himself a football team here for the next 5 or 6 years.
David Reed is back to return this kick.
I'd say he's still on probation.
Yeah, he is. He lost it again.
He lost it again. That's a fumble.
Seattle football.
At first glance, Greg, it looked like he was still off the ground when that ball got knocked out. Again, now this is a good hit. He loses his balance, and then it looks like he takes a pretty good pop from Maxwell, and then Big Beat makes the recovery. And no question that Reed was still in the air when the football comes loose.
Dan, I watched Reed go to the sideline, and not a word from anyone to David Reed.
Well, probation revoked.
From the 18-yard line. Jackson with all kinds of time. And throwing it at the man, and it's incomplete. Oh, what a play. Getting back was Kerry Williams to break up the pass to Sidney Rice.
Oh, and Sidney Rice had to be going. That ball must have been like it was moving through molasses on its way towards him. Again, look at this pass protection. Tavares Jackson has so much time, and the timing where Williams gets over there and bounces right off the back of his shoulder pads.
2nd and 10. Play clock down to 3, to 2, to 1. You got the play off. This is Lynch. Maybe a 1-yard gain.
Well, when it rains, it sometimes comes down in a monsoon, and David Reed right now is
soaking wet.
Yeah, he's on the verge of drowning in his own mistakes. Again, has his feet taken out from under him, and then while he's in midair, he takes the big shot. And where he is a place where you don't want to be.
3rd and 9. Jackson throwing, end zone, it is incomplete.
But again, Tavares Jackson trying to find Doug Baldwin, who's still down on the ground, as well as Ladarius Webb. There's Mike Williams working on the outside, and he's coming into the inside, but really Doug Baldwin is the intended receiver, and Jackson puts the ball right on his hands. Look at that.
Baldwin came really close to pulling this one in.
What a surprise Doug Baldwin has been for these Seahawks, an undrafted rookie out of Stanford. And, you know, that's when you get that kind of production from a free agent that somehow slipped all the way through the combine and the draft without much of a notice.
Came into this game with 434 yards receiving and a couple of touchdowns.
But I'll tell you this, when he made it through the draft, Pete Carroll telling us that this guy was so sought after that they really had to compete with a bunch of other teams. You know, I'd rather than be drafted in the 7th round, I'd rather be a free agent where you could go, at least you have a choice of where you're going. And that was the case with Doug Baldwin.
Because there is such a thing as 7th round money, isn't there?
Yes, there is. And Pete Carroll said we had to fight for this guy. Of course, Pete had seen him play at Stanford when he was coaching at SC.
Now Hauschka from 35 yards. And he's got that one. Seattle with its biggest lead of the season. A 12-point bulge with 46 seconds to play in the first half. Hauschka with a career-high 4 field goals, and we still have another half of football to play.
And of course, Hauschka, former Raven, released by the team.
Dan, knowing head coaches as you do, does David Reed have a chance of returning another kick today?
Not for any coach I know. We mentioned that, last Sunday night in the game against Pittsburgh, fortunately, somebody from his own team here comes up with this one, which was a saving grace. And then today, there's number 1, recovered by the Seahawks, and after getting a reprieve and a chance at it again from John Harbaugh, he puts it on the ground again.
You kind of think David Reed could just as easily take a shower at halftime, huh?
Well, the good news is that those 2 turnovers, the defense of the Ravens was able to stand up and only allow 2 field goals. That's about as good as you could possibly expect.
This is Chris Carr deep in the end zone, and he will not run this one out.
And we didn't even show you because it would be piling on David Reed's personal foul for taunting when he dropped the football on a Seahawks player.
I'll bet you Coach Harbaugh will remember it. Coming up on the Sprint Halftime Report, JV, Dan Shannenboomer, and Coach Bill Cowher. All the latest NFL scores and highlights coming up on the Sprint Halftime Report. You know who's watching this game with interest? The Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, you better believe they are. And of course, they took care of the Bengals today and already beat Cincinnati. So, Baltimore with a win today would be sitting pretty. Coming up with a game with Cincinnati next week.
Penalty markers fly as Rice goes up the middle across the 30-yard line.
Well, it looked like one of the Seahawks got a real jump. Chris Clemens really anticipating the snap count. It looked like he was across the ball at the snap.
Offside. Defense number 91. Penalty is declined. First down.
Clemens leads the Seahawks in sacks. No wonder they're 2-6.
Pete Carroll's going to have to come up with a new halftime speech.
Yeah, because you just hate to say good job, but that's really what he can say.
Flacco. Catch is made by Torrey Smith. Clock continues to move.
Boy, that was a good catch by Smith on a ball that was back behind him. He had to go back on his back hip to make that catch.
To the outside, and out of bounds is Dixon at the 49-yard line. It'll stop the clock with 21 seconds to play.
You can see that in a short period of time, the Ravens still have to cover a lot of distance. They have 1 timeout left.
Both teams, 1 timeout remaining. Flacco over the middle. That's complete to Bolden. And inside the 35 to the 34.
Well, this is going to take a long time to get up there and snap the ball. So, yes, that's where you got to use your timeout.
And that is the 3rd timeout used by the Ravens. They're out of timeouts for this half.
That would have taken way too much time to get up there and spike the ball or to run another play. So you'd love to be able to keep that last timeout to get your field goal team out on the field, but Baltimore had no choice.
One thing about the Ravens in this stadium, which is a nightmare for visiting teams because of the noise, they have been very much in control at the line of scrimmage.
Yes, they have. There's no question about it. The one thing that the Seahawks have got to feel good about is that they have stood toe-to-toe with one of the most, and when I say the, one of the 2 or 3 most physical teams in football. And when a bunch of kids when they can pull that off, they get a lot of confidence out of it.
And both coaches will remind their teams there are 2 halves to a game. Flacco. Incomplete out here in the flat to Ray Rice. 11 seconds on the clock.
And now you've got to work the sidelines or throw it into the end zone. But look at the lack of offensive balance. And keep in mind that 2 of those 7 rushes for the Ravens were end arounds.
Here come the Seattle fans. Far side of the field, and he can't connect with Dennis Pitta.
And again, the only patterns available were something to the sidelines or going for it all, but that's such a low percentage chance.
And now Billy Cundiff is going to come on and see if he can launch one from long range. This is going to be a 52-yard field goal attempt.
And if you look at the flags on the top of the stadium, it looks like he's going to be fighting the wind.
On its way. Oh, he got some foot into that one. But he missed it. Distance was not a problem for Cundiff on that kick.
No, he really put some leg into this thing. Of course, Cundiff has one of the strongest legs in the National Football League. And I don't know if he was playing for a little hook to come back in, a little right to left, but it just started right and stayed right. You know, a lot of times you'll see a kicker, especially from long distance like that, that ball will have a little natural draw to it. That did not.
So the Seattle Seahawks enjoy their first halftime lead this season. We've come to the end of the first half. It's 19-7 Seahawks. Back with the Sprint halftime report after this message and a word from your local station. You're watching the NFL on CBS. Back for the start of the second half. Seattle with a 19-7 lead. Let's take a look now at the NFL mobile recap presented by Verizon. David Reed hopes it's not all about him by the end of the day, Dan.
Well, there's a couple stories here. Yeah, David Reed, a pair of fumbles on kickoff returns, but really, talk about teamwork. The Baltimore defense really rose up and held Seattle to a field goal after each one of those. So, I mean, you turn over the ball twice in your own end of the field, and the price you pay is only 6 points. That's good job, Baltimore defense.
Greg Gumbel along with Dan Deerdorf, and certainly there's another half of football to play. But for the first half today, anyway, you have to be impressed with the way the Seahawks have come out and played against one of the better teams in the NFL.
Well, coming into this game, I thought that the Ravens are the best team in the AFC, and I think the #1 seed is theirs for the taking. I would think that John Harbaugh, though, has to challenge his team to run the football. I mean, challenge that offensive line. And Ray Rice, you guys have got to assert yourselves. We can't be a pass-only football team.
Baltimore gets their hands on the ball first here in the second half. Torrey Smith is deep and will not return this one. That one sailed over the end zone for the touchback, and the Ravens will start on their own 20-yard line.
I know it's become a passing lead, but the reality of it is 7 rushing attempts against 25 pass attempts. That's a lack of any sort of offensive balance. It's tough to overcome.
They threw the ball so much in the first half. Ed Dixon's 7 catches are a career high for him. From the 20. Flacco back to the air. Dennis Pitta, the intended receiver, although that wasn't close at all.
Although Pitta was wide open. I don't know if Joe got a little hit when he threw it, but Dennis Pitta working against the Seattle zone is just totally left alone, and Joe's attempt nowhere near the second-year tight end.
second and long. On the slant, tipped in the air and falls incomplete.
I think Seattle was offsides.
Yep.
I think Seattle, Joe Flacco drew them offsides.
Offside. Defense. Number 98. 5-yard penalty. Second down.
Raheem Brock.
And you know, the Ravens are going up against a 4-3 defense here with the Seahawks. And that's been a defense that's given them some problems in the past. Tennessee's a 4-3 team, and they lost that game. Jacksonville's a 4-3 team. They lost that game. It's Gus Bradley, their defensive coordinator. But again, this is an offensive unit for the Ravens that, in the first half at least, a little out of sync.
On 2nd and 5, that's incomplete. Knocked down by the middle linebacker, David Hawthorne.
Well, Joe Flacco in the first half, but you know, he had Torrey Smith. That was a touchdown waiting to happen. That's just good coverage right there, but a little off on that throw, a little late maybe on that one to Torrey Smith, and then that last one to Dennis Pitta. The only bright spot has been his hookups with Ed Dixon, mostly in the second quarter. Dixon got the lone Baltimore touchdown.
Flacco has
For Ray Rice of all people.
4 straight incompletions. That one is complete out to the 40-yard line to Pitta for a first down.
Well, Dennis Pitta with the big game last week against the Steelers, 5 receptions in that game. And that is, look how, and he and Dixon both so good with their hands. These guys don't want to use their body to make a catch. They're so confident in their ability to just be a hands receiver. That's such a good sign.
Intercepted, picked off, returning it is David Hawthorne, and Hawthorne dragged down inside the 10. And a penalty flag is down at the 10.
Personal foul. Number 5, defense, horse collar tackle, half the distance to the goal, first down.
Joe Flacco guilty of the horse collar.
Well, I don't think Joe works a lot in tackling drills. You can see right there the ball is batted right. The rookie, KJ Wright, deflects it right to David Hawthorne. And yeah, Joe did have his hand inside. Watch that left hand right there. He gets it and drags down Hawthorne, even though he let it come out at the end. He had it there.
Usually it's the Ravens that dominate the turnover aspect of the game. They are killing themselves today. Lynch. Nowhere to go that way. Nowhere to go at all.
Marshawn would like to have that cut back. He tried to bounce it to the outside. And you can see that coming into this game, the Ravens were a +4 in that differential, and wow, -3 today. 2 Reed fumbles, and now the Flacco chipped interception. And once again, this Baltimore defense is being asked to rise up and limit Seattle to a field goal after another turnover deep in their own territory.
On 2nd and goal, it is Lynch once again. And Lynch bulls his way to the 3.
Well, that's where the offensive line kept digging. Lynch kept digging, and they picked up another 1.5 yards or so with that surge. Normally, you see the ball carrier against Baltimore going the other direction, but right there is contact. And look at the guys still driving. Look at the team still pumping those legs. And that's Darrell Bevell, the Seahawks offensive coordinator.
3rd and goal from the 3. Jackson running out of time. Penalty marker flies.
Oh, there's a holding call. I don't think any question about that. James Carpenter, the right tackle.
Holding. Offense, number 76. Penalty is declined. 4th down.
Well, he says 76, which is Russell Okung, but he meant 75. He meant 75 because it happened right in front of. Look on the right side of your screen right over here. And there is the grab. As he just reaches out and puts the big hook on Paul Kruger.
And now Steven Hauschka looking to tie a Seattle franchise record with a 5th field goal. This one from 30 yards out. And he does.
Well, 3 turnovers, 9 points. That's good work by the Ravens defense.
We talked earlier about John Harbaugh emphasizing to his team that win over Pittsburgh last week doesn't mean much if they come out here and don't do well against Seattle. Pittsburgh has won today. Baltimore trying to keep pace. Torrey Smith is deep for the kick.
No David Reed?
No David Reed. And Torrey Smith will run this one out from 5 yards deep in the end zone, weaving his way out to about the 18 or 19-yard line. Ben Obamanu with the stop. Joe Flacco coming back out. Question is Ray Rice going to get on track before this day is over?
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com. The Home Depot. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. And by Ford. Drive one.
As they always do, the Seattle defense getting the benefit of the crowd. As Baltimore, you see the problems they've had with field position. Starting from their own 19. Flacco to throw. Rice. Hit from behind, falls forward to about the 28-yard line. Red Bryant, the defensive end.
You know, Greg, we just looked at that difference in field position. 4 different times Seattle has started in Baltimore territory.
And Flacco, looking for the first down, appears to have it. But that's a lot of cumulative yardage.
Yeah, it most certainly is. Well, when you shorten the field like that, it's a great equalizer. It's how a lesser team stays up with a more talented team. If you're playing on a short field, and again, you just can't praise the Ravens defense enough, only giving up those field goals.
Flacco, that's Pitta, and Pitta for another first down just across the 40.
Well, here we have the no huddle, and Joe's very comfortable working out of this offense. They can operate this totally silently on the road with hand signals,
which is a good thing here. Rice, one-handed grab, and that's good for about a 1-yard, maybe a 2-yard gain. David Hawthorne makes the stop.
Well, not only did David Hawthorne make the stop, but he made a really nice open field tackle. Ray Rice, as we all know, is he's more than a handful in the open field. And watch how Hawthorne, look how he squared up, wrapped up, and got Ray Rice to the ground.
On 2nd and 8, Flacco, far side of the field, and that's incomplete. In and out of the hands of Anquan Boldin.
Well, they got the matchup they wanted. It was good protection against the 5-man rush, and Joe Flacco puts the football right where he had to put it. And Anquan Boldin, a very veteran receiver, just dropped it plain and simple.
That's 33 passes on 41 offensive snaps by the Ravens today.
Now, granted, they're behind, but to just completely abandon the run game.
Flacco almost It's intercepted and it's complete. It's a Torrey Smith.
Oh boy. Roy Lewis had that thing in his hands. Keep in mind, Baltimore has a Ray Lewis, but the Seahawks have a Roy Lewis. And that is he there, number 34. Whoa. And that was the tip drill in reverse, where the offensive player ended up with the reception.
Leon Washington back at his own 13-yard line for the punt. Cook booms another one. Look at this one. Fair catch made just inside the 10-yard line. 9:31 to play in the third. Seattle still in charge. That looks like the top rung on a totem pole.
Well, Baltimore has 4 defensive touchdowns. If they were considering making it 5, this would be a pretty good time to do so.
Defense has done a great job of holding Seattle to field goals rather than touchdowns today. And this is Marshawn Lynch out across the 15 to the 17-yard line. Hey, follow the NFL while on the go with the NFL's new mobile apps. To learn more today, go to NFL.com/mobile.
Unfortunately for Baltimore, Lynch lost his footing and basically went down on his own. He picked up at least another 4 or 5.
On 2nd and 2, Lynch has the first down over the 20 to the 22-yard line. And if that is what the Seattle Seahawks are going to want to do the rest of this day.
Well, again, I know that the rules have been changed to make it a passing league, and you got to be able to throw the football, but sometimes it sure is nice to be able to run the football. And just take a look at it. 2 running plays, and you move the sticks.
Lynch once again. And you know, it'll be interesting to hear John Harbaugh's explanation, win or lose today, of how they've really gone completely away from the run, even down. And you understand that they're playing catch-up football now. But still, Dan, as you said, it's a little early to completely abandon the running game.
Well, you don't abandon the game plan. It's just 22-7. There's plenty of time to execute your full offense, run the football. You can put together nice 12, 14 play drive if you're capable. Gets you right back into this, makes it a competitive ball game.
DeForest Jackson has a man deep, wide open, and now closing the gap. Oh, the catch, no, not made. Sidney Rice, broken up by Kerry Williams. But oh, was Sidney Rice wide open for a while.
And he is still down on the ground, and you're right. If Tavares Jackson could have thrown this football far enough to lead Rice, that could have been a huge play. Now there's Tavares Jackson. Again, he doesn't step into the football. He's got Corey Redding coming at him. But if he could have thrown that just a couple feet more out in front of Sidney Rice.
Or a couple seconds sooner.
Yeah, where it was, it allowed Kerry Williams to come in and make a play.
So while they tend to Sidney Rice on the field, we'll take a timeout.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by E-Trade. And by the Droid Razor. Thin is no longer frail, only at Verizon.
.752 to play in the third, and Sidney Rice being looked at on the sideline. Got up on his own and jogged off the field. And now Tavares Jackson looking at a 3rd and 9, and the Ravens defense hoping to give the ball back to the offense. Jackson got his man. That's complete to Anthony McCoy, the tight end. And that's a first down.
Well, that was pretty easy. Jackson against the 4-man Baltimore rush, and again, that's an awfully big cushion given the backup tight end. By the time Chris Carr is able to come over and do much of anything, the chains are moved pretty easily.
Tavares Jackson spreading the ball around to his receivers. 6 different guys have caught passes.
Yeah, I don't think Chuck Pagano was very happy with that coverage.
New set of downs now at the 37. Lynch to the 40.
Well, I know that Pete Carroll, when we talked to him, talking about his young football team, he said, you know, we don't need to run faster. We don't need to practice harder. We don't need to study more. We just have to do more things right. In other words, we got to just stop the self-inflicted penalties, the stupid things. He said, you know, it's a learning experience, and learning how to win takes a while.
On 2nd and 7, Tavares Jackson under pressure and completed that into McCoy. And Ray Lewis coming over to make that stop. You get the impression Ray Lewis is not the happiest guy on the field right now.
Well, I can't imagine that anyone with the Ravens is very happy right now.
But Ray more than most.
Well, yeah, he's certainly more vocal about it. And again, that's a good job by Ray Lewis of flowing one direction, realizing the play's coming back, and he can still cover some ground. Remarkable for a guy in his 16th year.
12 Pro Bowls. 3rd and 5. Jackson, incomplete. Intended for Lynch out of the backfield, and that'll force the kick.
Ian Badejo, who was a question mark as to whether he was going to play this week. He had a pretty good hit to the head last week, and he was able to come back and play. And he had the coverage that forced that low throw from Jackson.
So Lardarius Webb backs up to his own 10-yard line. Webb from the 13. Spins out of trouble and falls forward to about the 16 or 17. Well, last week, Joe Flacco was the comeback kid. The question is, can he be the comeback kid again this week? I do believe we have come face to face with a Seahawk.
How's that for a beautiful bird? Look at that. 10 plays in this half for Baltimore. The one rush, remember, was a quarterback sneak.
Ricky Williams into the backfield to start this series. Flacco to throw. Williams. And running for the first down marker, appears to have the first down. And with that, to New York in the NFL today.
Giants are not having an easy time of it with San Francisco.
Eli Manning, a perfect pass to Mario Manningham in the corner of the end zone. 13 yards touchdown, putting the Giants up 13-12.
That capped a 10-play, 84-yard drive back to Greg Gumbel and Dan Beardor.
All right, guys, when we saw Eli Manning and company a few weeks ago, he is really playing well. That pass is complete to Ricky Williams out of the backfield. And once again, Dan, it's throwing the football that's in the cards for the Baltimore Ravens.
Well, we still have 20 minutes of football to play in regulation. But Cam Cameron has pretty much left the running game in the locker room. Not that there was a whole lot of it in the first half.
Outside to Dixon, and Dixon is run out of bounds. Once again, back to New York. You guys are busy.
Greg, the Lions are hurting themselves.
And Major Wright steps in front of this pass as Matthew Stafford throws it behind his receiver. 24-yard return for a touchdown, 27-6 Chicago.
3 Lions turnovers, 17 points scored by Chicago. Back to Greg and Dan.
All right, guys, thank you. Meanwhile, 3rd and 3. And the Seattle fans jumping on the chance to voice their opinion.
And 6 DBs in the game for Seattle. They've gone to the dime.
Right up the middle, complete to Pitta for a first down to the 46 of the Seahawks.
Man, do Dennis Pitta and Ed Dixon work the seam for Joe Flacco, just like Todd Heap did before. But the sure hands on these two guys, and both of them drafted last year, Dixon in the third, Pitta in the fourth, they have come on.
Rice back onto the field. Rice with the screen and blocking out in front, dragged down at about the 39-yard line.
A good job by Chris Clemens there, the defensive end, of actually having enough speed to run with Ray Rice and make that tackle.
That was Ben Grubbs out in front of Rice.
I really thought the Baltimore running game was going to take off when Grubbs came back from missing 6 games with that toe injury.
A run. It's Rice to the 31 and a first down. And you can hardly blame the Seahawks for being surprised.
No, I don't think they were playing it. All right, Ray Rice just on the little delay. Boy, that's a nice little cut back to the right. You can see left David Hawthorne just grabbing air.
Let's see if that is what's called establishing the run for the Ravens. It was. Back to the air. Flacco over the middle. Rice inside the 30, inside the 25,
now
to the 24.
These little dump offs and you know, the screen before, you know, they're very high percentage throws, but they are throws nonetheless.
And they're a lot like a run.
Yeah,
Getting into a running back in the open field.
Tom Brady has been making a living doing that for years.
Ricky Williams in the backfield with Flacco. This is Williams. Williams going to have a first down inside the 20. Pulls his way to the 17.
See, if Seattle's going to play nickel and dime on you, you've got to check out to a running play and take advantage of the fact that, you know, a defensive lineman and a linebacker are liable to be sitting this one out. You got to take advantage of the matchups.
We are under 2 minutes to play in the third.
Nickel now by Seattle.
This is Ricky Williams, and Williams hit at the line of scrimmage, forward for about a yard. David Hawthorne making the first hit.
And what a hit it was. Now that was a violent collision between a middle linebacker and a big physical running back. Check it out. There it is right there. And look at Ricky Williams. He brought it on that one. He got the better of Hawthorne with that shot.
Williams to the sideline, Rice in the backfield, 2nd and 9. Flacco to the end zone, nobody there. Threw it away. Once again, back to New York. JB.
Hey, Greg, same headline. Lions hurting themselves.
Oh, yeah, Matthew Stafford throws another one behind his receiver. Charles Tillman takes this back 45 yards for a touchdown. Chicago all over Detroit, 34-6.
Lions 5 turnovers coming into today. 4 today, 24 points scored off of. Back to Greg and Dan.
Guys, I think the Detroit Lions discovering what is a truism in the National Football League. It's a long season.
It's a long season, and you're not surprising anybody anymore.
3rd and 9. Flacco, this side of the field, it is incomplete. Intended for Anquan Bolden.
And again, Richard Sherman, the big corner. Keep in mind now, he's 6'3", and he is a long, lean player. And if Bolden can't get any separation, that's asking an awful lot to try to throw it over a 6'3" corner. Not going to happen. And you could see John Harbaugh just patted Bolden on the shoulder going, not much you could do about that.
Billy Cundiff is 33 of his last 34 from inside 50 yards. This is a 35-yarder. And it's good. And we have a penalty marker.
Well, Ray Rice screaming at somebody.
After the play, personal foul, unsportsmanlike conduct. The penalty will be enforced on the kickoff, number 97. The kick is good.
He didn't give us a number, but you've got to assume it's on Ray Rice from number 27's reaction.
Well, no, it was on the field goal, so Ray Rice wasn't even on the field. Yeah, I think it's on Arthur Jones.
Well, then Ray is really upset on behalf of a teammate.
Well, I think he was screaming probably at Arthur Jones. Yeah. Ray Rice, a very emotional guy. He's a leader in his own right on this football team, and you know, this game is hard enough without aiding and abetting the enemy. When that's 15 yards like that, again, they're
aiding and abetting. I like that. Hey, let's talk about next Sunday. Doubleheader action here on CBS. Dan and I will see these same Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore as they take on the Cincinnati Bengals. Doubleheader action includes San Diego at Chicago, the suddenly resurgent Chicago Bears. It all begins with the NFL today at noon Eastern Time. Sponsored by Southwest Airlines.
How many question marks surrounding Norv Turner and the San Diego Chargers, huh? That is a football team, a bit of a head scratcher like the Eagles as well, who they lost again today, didn't they? They are in a free fall.
We are told that Sidney Rice's return to the lineup is questionable today with a head injury.
And we're also being told that Anthony Hargrove, the defensive end for the Seahawks, has a hamstring, and his return in the second half of this game is doubtful.
Has anyone told you it's getting a little chilly here, Dan?
No, I am not cold at all.
No, I didn't say you. It's just solely my observation.
I don't care if you're cold.
Leon Washington. Washington to the 25. And stood up at about the 27-yard line. Albert McClellan, a reserve linebacker, making the special teams play.
Well, keep in mind, these Ravens can go back to not too recent turn of events to realize they were down 21 points to the Arizona Cardinals. They came back and won that game. They had a come-from-behind drive to win last week to beat Pittsburgh, so you'd have to think that the confidence level on this team is pretty high, but the defense is going to have to shut these guys out.
Meanwhile, they will start this drive the Seahawks do on the ground with Marshawn Lynch to the 30 as we count off the final 35 seconds of this third quarter.
And the Seahawks aren't going to have to run another play here in the third quarter. They've got the play clock beat by about a second.
Are you telling me they won't break their necks to get off a play before the time expires?
No, they're not.
Well, the Ravens were the talk of Baltimore with their comeback win against the Steelers. They're going to have to come up with another one if they continue to stay on a roll. But right now, it's all Seattle as we go to the fourth quarter. That's the end of 3. Seattle is in charge. We're coming back after this message and a word from your local station. This is the NFL on CBS. Along with our producer, Mark Wolf, our director, Bob Fishman, Greg Gumbel, Dan Deerdorf, and the rest of our CBS Sports crew in the great Northwest, where the Seattle Seahawks are hoping to complete the surprise. They lead 22-10 as we start the fourth quarter. Second and 6. The ball just across the 30-yard line. Jackson throw. That was complete. Out here on the sideline, Zach Miller with a first down.
Well, once again, Tavares Jackson is enjoying pretty good pass protection. He's only been sacked one time today, and it has been, there's been a lot of situations where he's had more than ample time to survey the field and make the throw.
And he has managed this game very, very well.
Yes, he has. And he's thrown it very well for a guy who's got a significant injury to his right pectoral muscle.
Lynch to the 45. Pickup of 3. And it'll be 2nd and 7.
And again, keep in mind, this is a Seattle team that's operating without their normal right guard. Rookie John Moffitt suffered a pretty significant knee injury in the first half, and he's been replaced by Lemuel Jean-Pierre, and he won't be back today. And Ed Reed, a big play waiting to happen.
You can say the same for a lot of these defenders on the Baltimore Ravens. This is Lynch to about the 48-yard line. There are big play defenders all over the field.
Well, the reality right now is that the Seahawks have not turned the ball over, and the Ravens have turned it over 3 separate times.
You see Ed Reed there in the middle. Haloti Ngata's a big play man. So is Suggs. So is Ray Lewis. So is...
against a defense like this, 2 and 6 football teams are supposed to turn it over. They're being very uncooperative.
2 and 6 football teams are supposed to crumble this time of the game. Golden Tate with the catch.
Well, they went to a bunch formation that time. 4 receivers, and Chris Carr went right through them. Darrell Bevel's got to be a little unhappy with this. I mean, this is just a setup screen. Look at you, got 3 guys out front. I got news for you, Anthony McCoy. Might help the play a great deal if you decide to try to block Chris Carr.
You got to get a body in front of him. Ladarius Webb is deep for the kick.
I'm sure that play looked great on paper.
It's the only place that looked great. High and short, and Webb with a fair catch call and made at about the 25-yard line. 12:35 to play in regulation. There's a look at Joe Flacco, and the question is, will he be putting the ball in the air with the same consistency?
41 attempts so far in this game with 12:35 remaining. That is a lot of passing.
Penalty marker. Deep down the far sideline, it is incomplete. Richard Sherman making the play. This is probably going to go against the Seattle defense.
Offside. Defense, number 98. 5-yard penalty. First down and 5.
Well, that's Raheem Brock again. And Gus Bradley's guys are really trying to jump the snap count. You know, they know that their offense has to run on a silent snap count, and a lot of times the center will fall into a rhythm on that silent snap count, and a good savvy defensive end tries to jump it, but a little nanosecond head start by Brock brings the flag.
Flacco with time, and that's complete to Bolden. And we have a penalty marker in the backfield.
Illegal hands to the face. Defense, number 95. 5-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
I don't see a 95 on the Seattle roster.
That makes 2 of us. I think Gus Bradley's trying to figure out who, you know, that must be the 12th man.
First down, Baltimore, their own 34. Pete Carroll is probably thinking we don't need to help them down the field. Flacco to throw. To Dennis Pitta. Let's get an update from JB and Dan in New York.
San Francisco has sprinted in front of the Giants.
And after an Eli Manning interception, handoff to Kendall Hunter. He goes untouched in the end zone. 17-yard touchdown. 49ers taking control of this game, 27-13.
12:21 left in regulation. Back to Greg and Dan.
All right, guys, thank you.
Well, whatever, right? We're all on a learning experience following this 49er team and how good they are.
2nd and 4. Flacco going to throw the slant. Oh, What a catch. No, it's incomplete.
Well,
but Laquan Williams with the dive, and the pass was right on the mark.
Again, Richard Sherman, this rookie corner from Stanford, number 25 there on top. He's right in there. And again, he's 6'3", and when he puts that left arm out in front, that's very distracting. These are two really tall, rangy, physical corners.
3rd and 4. Incomplete. Bolden was the nearest receiver.
Well, Bolden running just a simple out pattern. Just 5 yards out and break to the sideline. And Joe and his very veteran receiver, just the timing wasn't good there at all.
And now the dangerous Leon Washington back inside his own 10-yard line. Fair catch. And he let it bounce. And it rolls inside the 5. Oh, what a save by the special teams. Jameel McClain was down there.
Well, Baltimore needed a big play to come from
now
somewhere.
They're saying. Now there's a call down there, and I saw the officials indicate.
Well, McClain scooped it behind his back. Did he make contact with one of his teammates who was in the end zone?
Well, the officials just made a motion that it was Baltimore football inside the 5.
Well, I don't know.
There's the save, and a ball. Oh, Seattle ball player stuck a hand in there. Is that Heath Farwell?
Yeah, but keep it. You got to keep in mind that that's called an illegal touch when you cover a punt like that. So the defender can come in, take a chance at picking up the ball because nothing bad can happen. Nothing bad can happen. When McClain right here does that to the football, anyone from Seattle can come over, attempt to pick up the football, and do anything he wants to do with it because you can't lose possession of the football. Now, I don't know I'm not sure what was going to be gained by Farwell. Yeah, I don't know where he thought he was going
in the midst of 6 Baltimore Ravens.
Right. But you've heard in the past illegal touching. That's technically when you down a punt.
And I'm sure Pete Carroll wasn't saying to him on the sideline, really good job on that play.
You know, if you think back about it, you've seen it before where then a guy swoops in and tries to pick it up and take off with it. It was a heck of a play by Jameel McClain. It was a tremendous job of keeping the ball from going into the end zone. How's that for a little athleticism, huh? How about that?
Well, it is a first down. Seattle at their own 3. Lynch out across the 5 to the 6. While we have a moment, we'll remind you, time permitting, after the game, the Subway postgame show. JB, Dan, Shannon, Boomer, and the coach have all the latest scores and highlights coming up on the Subway postgame show.
Well, if ever a 3-and-out was in order for the Ravens defense, this, needless to say, would be a timely place to do so.
On 2nd and 6, Jackson throwing out of his own end zone, far side, wide open. He has his man, and that's Golden Tate.
Boy, and I tell you what, there was a rare time where you saw some confusion on the Ravens defense. They didn't know where to line up. Haloti Ngata and the inside guys, they don't even mount a pass rush. They're just standing around. Forrest Jackson has all the time in the world to find a receiver. And fortunately for Golden Tate, he gets the ball knocked loose, but it goes right out of bounds. And it didn't stay in the play. Yeah. Bernard Pollard popped it out.
First down at the 19. Back to the ground game and Lynch. Now certainly there's a lot of time still to be played. 9:55 and counting here in the fourth quarter. But if there's a bright side to a Baltimore loss, is that they would still hold the tiebreaker over the Pittsburgh Steelers in their division.
No, they still hold the tiebreaker, but this game is, we've got a lot of football.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it's 2 touchdowns, puts Baltimore in front. And, you know, we've seen them do it before, but first of all, the defense has to do their job and get them the ball back.
On 2nd and 6, Jackson threw it in the ground.
Well, and he threw it right at the feet of Marshawn Lynch. Pretty good awareness there by Tavares Jackson.
Pretty good strength shown, too. Corey Redding all over him.
They're going to try to set up. They're going to try to set up the screen. This is a screen all the way, but you know it was Lynch who tried to stop the upfield rush of Redding, and he just didn't slow his momentum at all.
Corey Redding played 15 games with these Seahawks back in the 09 season.
I'll give him credit. That was a good play on this play.
3rd and 6. Jackson throws it out of bounds. Under pressure. And Seattle will kick.
Well, the Ravens defense did part 1. They did their job. Now can the special teams and the offense maybe chime in and provide a little assistance?
This is the 3rd straight punt for the Seahawks. And Ladarius Webb is deep. Webb at the 30 to the 35. That's where the Ravens will go back to work. 9:06 to play in the 4th.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by TD Ameritrade. State Farm. For auto, home, life, and banking. Get to a better state. And by Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the NFL. Here we go.
Welcome back to Seattle. 9:06 to play here in the 4th quarter, and the Ravens at their own 35. First down. Best starting field position of the day for the Ravens. Flacco on the crossing pattern. That is incomplete. Ray Rice could not hold on. Here's a reminder. Tonight on 60 Minutes, congressional approval ratings at an all-time low and are likely to sink further when Americans hear what 60 Minutes is uncovered tonight. Only CBS. Here in the second half, the Ravens have run the ball 4 times and thrown it 21.
And when you're a couple scores behind, every mistake gets magnified. They just can't afford dropped passes, inaccurate throws. Their margin of error is getting mighty slim.
Flacco going down at the 25. Malcolm Smith, the rookie out of USC.
Well, so much of blitzing is timing, and Malcolm Smith timed this really well. He's going to come knifing in from the left, right between Grubbs and McKinney, and there is nobody there to pick him up. And Joe Flacco had no chance whatsoever.
On 3rd and 18, Flacco over the middle, and he's got Ed Dixon out to the 40-yard line, but that's 5 yards short of a first down.
And right now, the Baltimore offense,
they're going to go for it on 4th and 5.
Well, this is a risky move by John Harbaugh, but I think it's one he's got to make. They have got to show some signs of life. Another punt here would just be anemic.
Flacco going to run for it. Penalty marker is down. He made the yardage, but there's a flag on the near side of the field.
Holding, defense, number 34. Penalty is declined. First down.
The defensive back, Roy Lewis, on the near side of the field.
Well, that would have given the Ravens an automatic first down anyway. So Joe Flacco did it on his own. There he is, number 34. Yeah, he puts a big hook and grab on Dennis Pitta. But congrats to Joe Flacco. He got it done.
Flacco stepping up and underthrows Bolden.
Boy, Anquan Bolden is having a difficult time getting separation from Richard Sherman. And this is a very veteran wide receiver going against a rookie who's only making his third start in the National Football League. And that's a risky move for a corner to do that pirouette. But that throw low and away, and Bolden had no chance at that.
2nd and 10. Flacco going deep. Knocked down inside the 10-yard line by Earl Thomas.
Well, this time it's a corner underneath, the safety over the top. Torrey Smith tries to, he sees his quarterback scramble. That's not the pattern. But when he saw, and again, Earl Thomas, a very physical safety, got away with dislodging Torrey Smith down the field. I've seen that flag lots of times.
3rd and 10. Play clock down to 2, down to 1. He got the play off. Flacco under pressure, and it's incomplete. And a penalty marker down in the middle of the field.
Well, Joe got hit as he delivered that football. David Hawthorne, the middle linebacker, but is this against Seattle again?
Illegal contact. Defense, number 34. 5-yard penalty.
Lewis again.
Well, Roy Lewis, that for the second time, gets caught with a penalty. And that is a contact on Anquan Bolden that is well beyond the 5-yard limit. Now, you've got the right to occupy the space that you're in, but again, you got to run with the guy. You can't just stand there and hit him.
On first down, Flacco with the screen. Rice inside the 40 to the 36 and a first down.
Well, a nicely designed screen to the right side. Again, anything that gets Ray Rice out in space is a good thing.
And from here on, any running play run by the Ravens would just be a changeup. Ricky Williams in the backfield. Flacco. Bolden. Incomplete. Penalty markers.
Well, they're going to say that Anquan Bolden was a defenseless receiver.
And Cam Chancellor is the defender who's down.
Personal foul, number 31, blow to the head, 15-yard penalty, first down.
Anquan Bolden is in the process of making a catch. He's considered a defenseless receiver, and Chancellor hits him helmet to helmet. And Anquan Bolden, one tough guy.
His Chancellor took the worst of this.
You can't strike the receiver above the neck or above, and that was a dead-on helmet-to-helmet contact by Chancellor. They can boo, but that's the call.
Cam Chancellor off the field under his own power. First down from the 21-yard line. Flacco, end zone, incomplete. Those of you expecting to see 60 minutes, you are watching the NFL on CBS. Our game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Seattle Seahawks. Greg Gumbel along with Dan Deerdorf. It's 22-10 Seattle. 60 minutes will be seen its entirety immediately following this game, except on the West Coast. That is Cam Chancellor. Twice on this drive, the Ravens have gotten a first down via a Seattle penalty. Four times.
And they would have had 3, except they declined the one because Flacco ran for a first down.
2nd and 10. Flacco, Rice inside the 15 to the 11.
And that might be a first down. Awfully close.
It is a first down. Joe Cool looking every bit the part under pressure. First visit to the red zone by either team in this quarter. 6 minutes to play. Flacco to the end zone, touchdown. Ed Dixon, who is having a monster day.
Well, that's Ed Dixon's 10th catch of this game and his 2nd touchdown reception. And again, it's just a simple seam pattern by Dixon, and he's able to run by Malcolm Smith, and that was a perfect strike from Joe Flacco.
On Flacco's 52nd pass attempt, that's a career high for Flacco in one game. Kundus, extra point attempt is good. Don't go anywhere. 5:52 to play in the 4th, and we've got a penalty marker and a little shoving.
That was an absolutely fantastic pass from Joe Flacco. Talk about throwing it into a tight window.
Scott Green going to try to figure out who is at fault here.
And Pete Carroll, penalties have been a problem for his Seahawks team all season long.
Personal foul. Defense, number 69. Point is good. Penalty will be assessed on the kickoff.
Just dumb football.
Clinton McDonald guilty. Seattle got to be careful the wheels don't come off in this last 5:52.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by DirecTV. Switch now and get a whole home DVR upgrade for free. And by Subway. So many $5 footlong favorites available every day.
I believe this has turned into your basic barn burner with 5:52 to play in the 4th quarter. Baltimore has pulled to within 5, 22-17. Both teams with all of their timeouts remaining.
And with Baltimore's defense, I'm sure John Harbaugh is very comfortable kicking it away, counting on Ray Lewis and company to get him the ball back.
Ravens have scored 10 straight points to move back into this game, and with the benefit of the penalty, this kickoff comes from the 50-yard line and not likely to be returned. And it won't be.
Well, we go back and look at that penalty on Clinton McDonald, and he's right here. That's Michael Orr. McDonald is right there, and he's going to run his hand up Michael Orr's face mask and actually remove his helmet. Look right there. Michael Orr a little unhappy that he had an adversary's hand under his face mask and all the way up in his hairline. I'm telling you, nobody likes that feeling.
So let's see if Seattle can rely on Marshawn Lynch in the ground game to work some clock. Penalty marker.
The false start by Seattle. And the penalties continue.
False start. Offense, number 76. 5-yard penalty. First down.
That's Russell Okung.
Again, the second most penalized team in the National Football League. They had 70 penalties called against them coming into today's game, and that was an even dozen today.
There's been a power shortage here in the second half for Seattle. They have 61 total yards here in the second half. First and 15. Jackson to throw. Penalty markers down. And he will throw it to the sideline incomplete.
Illegal motion. Number 81. Offense was never set.
There's an "are you kidding me" look from their head coach.
Another one or two of those, and even the smile will be gone from Pete Carroll's face. First and 20.
Well, I'm sure that Pete considered declining the penalty and just letting it be second and 15, but he's going to accept it, make it first and 20 instead. These penalties stop the clock, though, for Seattle.
Jackson, sideline pass, and that is complete to the 20-yard line. Golden Tate with the catch.
You know, Greg, for a guy who really is injured, you know, this injury to the pectoral of Tavares Jackson is something serious. I am so impressed with how he's thrown the ball today.
He ought to be this hurt every week.
Really? I can't recall having seen him throw the ball better. I mean, he has thrown it with some real zip.
This is Lynch. And Lynch pulls his way to the 25 as we get another update from JB and Dan in New York, guys.
Eli Manning trying to make amends for his 2 picks, Dan.
And Eli Manning makes a great throw off a blitz by the 49ers, and Keem Nicks. Look at this catch. The
Great
location of the pass, 32 yards, touchdown. 49ers still up 27-20.
And the Giants are driving. 2 minutes left in regulation. Back to Dan. And, of course, Greg.
Oh, how nice of you, JB. Thank you. Like I had left the building or something.
Thank you, JB.
Third and 5.
Appreciate the headline book.
Jackson going to throw it. And that's complete across the 40 to 45. And out of bounds. Golden Tate. And a big first down for the Seattle Seahawks.
Perfectly timed and thrown between the corner and the safety. And Tavares Jackson starts to the right, looks to the left, and feeds it in there beyond Carr and in front of Ed Reed. And again, that is a perfectly thrown ball by Tavares Jackson. And Ed Reed's on it, but he just can't get there in time.
First down now at their own 49.
One at first and 20, and they convert.
This is Lynch into Baltimore territory. 4.5 minutes and the clock is running.
Man, that is frustrating to a defense when you've got somebody backed up to their own goal line, first and 20, and they move the sticks on you, especially when they're protecting less than a 1-touchdown lead.
In years gone by, Dan, when we paid a visit to Minnesota, Tavares Jackson was backing up Brett Favre up there, and there was plenty of optimism about Tavares Jackson's future.
Well, how frustrated was Tavares Jackson? You know, 1 minute he's the Minnesota starter, and the next minute the car is on the way in from the airport with Brett Favre, and now he's the backup. What a yo-yo he was on up there for years.
Second and 6. This is Lynch. To the 47. And the clock is moving, coming up on 3:40 to play.
Well, John Harbaugh right now is really at the point where he's going to hold on to his timeouts and hope that his defense here is going to force a 4th down punt from Seattle.
Well, this is another big 3rd down play for both sides.
A conversion here is a real backbreaker.
Jackson going to throw for it. Lynch. First down yardage inside the 40. and we have a Raven down.
Oh, what a move. What a move by Marshawn Lynch on Jarrett Johnson. High percentage throw, but right here, there comes Ray Lewis, and then Jarrett Johnson, number 95. Both of them end up on the ground. Look at that. Look at that stutter step and lateral move by Marshawn Lynch.
And Ed Reed got hit by Haloti Ngata, but he's limping in the backfield, but he's still there.
Surprise?
On first down. Lynch.
And now John Harbaugh's got to take a timeout.
And he does to stop the clock with 2:15. Baltimore's first timeout here in the second half. It has been, as always, a heck of a day around the National Football League, not the least of which Ben Roethlisberger. I would not count the Pittsburgh Steelers out of anything, Dan.
No, although I like Baltimore having the tie-breaking position. The Falcons went for a very controversial fourth down in their own territory. They didn't get it, and that allowed New Orleans to kick the field goal to win it in OT.
And the Dallas Cowboys beat their pants off the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, the Bills are, the wheels are coming off their snowmobile a little bit. And Tim Tebow, 2 completed passes. And Denver won the game, did they not?
Yes, they did. 69 yards and a touchdown, 9 carries for 43 and a touchdown.
When's the last time an NFL football game was won with a quarterback with 2 completions?
On 2nd and 8. Lynch. Still on his feet. And a first down.
Well, Pete Carroll.
And now the Ravens say they have the football.
You know, I bet they do. The whistle hadn't blown. That scrum was still moving forward. Well, Scott Green says it's a 2-minute warning, and in saying so, he certainly is giving the impression that it's still Seattle's football.
Because no official has said otherwise. Can Seattle hold on? 2 minutes to play.
Well, here's Marshawn Lynch in the middle of that sea of humanity, and he just, you know, the scrum keeps moving forward, and then when he goes down, of course, everyone from the Ravens is digging for that football, but the officiating crew ruled that he had the necessary yardage for a first down. John Harbaugh, you can see, is holding the red flag, but
and he's going to toss it
because it happened outside the 2-minute warning.
It's not automatic.
Yeah, he can go ahead and challenge this, but I'm not, I don't see how this could, they would have to see, the officiating crew would have to see that somebody from Baltimore recovered this fumble, and that's not going to happen. If it was a fumble even.
Scott Green may well be telling him not to waste his challenge.
I mean, the officiating crew in this situation has to see the recovery by the opponent.
Here's Scott Green.
Baltimore is challenging the ruling of the spot of the ball for a first down.
Well, Baltimore is going to challenge the spot, which of course, this first down comes awfully close to sealing the deal for the Seahawks.
Contact is made at about the 32.
When does the whistle blow? And you can see Marshawn Lynch right there is not quite to the 20. That's so tight. Yeah, there's no question that Marshawn Lynch is down in possession of the football.
From that first view,
so
it looks like he might have been shorted about half a yard.
So John Harbaugh is hoping that somehow he could keep those chains from being moved.
Let's watch the play and listen for the whistle.
Given to where Marshawn Lynch had to go to get the first down, I think he did so easily.
I was beginning to wonder, where's the whistle?
Yeah. Well, you know, he's done that a couple times this game. Yards after contact they've been something that Marshawn Lynch has done on several instances today.
Lynch is on the board for 30 carries, a career high, and 97 yards rushing. He's in search of his first ever back-to-back 100-yard rushing games.
I just look at where the ball is spotted on the field. That was necessary to move the sticks. I don't think Scott Green saw anything that's going to move that football back.
After reviewing the play, the ruling on the field stands. Baltimore is charged with their second timeout.
That costs Baltimore a timeout, and they have one remaining.
Well, let's just praise Marshawn Lynch and his offensive line with that surge, because once he was slowed by the Ravens defense, he went about another 4 yards. Another 3 to 4 yards.
Lynch to the 21. Once again, JB and Dan in New York, guys.
Well, the Giants driving for a score, Dan.
And on 4th and 2, Eli Manning drops back, and Justin Smith jumps up, tips the ball. The Giants turn it over on downs. 49ers win 27-20.
Well, one Harbaugh is happy. Let's take it back. And Greg, of course, we know you didn't leave the building. We love your quick retorts.
What? Thank you, guys.
Well, I'll say this. John Harbaugh, all week long before this game, was talking about Marshawn Lynch and what a good back he was. And I think a lot of people, I've read some articles where they're going, oh, it sounds like Lou Holtz and Woody Hayes talking up the opposition. Well, John was right. Marshawn Lynch has turned in some performance here this afternoon.
31 carries, 104 yards.
And getting over 100 yards against this defense, that's some accomplishment.
And he's going to add to it.
I mean, look at him. This guy won't go down.
That's a first down. And the clock continues to move. While we have a moment, we'll remind you, tonight on CBS begins with a 60 minutes investigation on congressional conflicts of interest, followed by a new Amazing Race, The Good Wife, and CSI Miami tonight, only CBS.
Well, you're right, it was a first down, and the only positive thing to come out of this game for the Ravens is that it's a loss to an NFC team.
And Tavares Jackson taking a knee. And we come up on 1 minute remaining.
When you get into some tie-breaking scenarios, conference losses come into play, and this won't be one of them.
We talked at the very top about the up and down nature of this Baltimore Ravens team at time. This is a down that they tried to avoid. They were very well aware of it coming in here.
And it's the Ravens' second loss this season to a team that at the time had a losing record. Jacksonville was 1-5, and Seattle was 2-6. And an opportunity lost for Baltimore.
Tavares Jackson takes the knee, and the Seattle Seahawks are going to send the Baltimore Ravens home with a loss.
And Pete Carroll's team, I got to give them some props. These kids, there's an upside here. How soon they get there, I don't know, but there's some young talent on this team.
A young team on the rise. They knock off the Baltimore Ravens. And Marshawn Lynch was just outstanding. Our final score, the Seahawks 22, the Ravens 17. For Dan Dearport and the rest of our CBS Sports crew. Greg Gumbel, so long from Seattle. Tonight on CBS, 60 minutes, followed by Amazing Race, The Good Wife, CSI Miami tonight, only CBS. Thanks for joining us, everyone. You've been watching the NFL on CBS.